Good evening. Tonight is Thursday, November 7th in the year of 2013, and this is a meeting for the City School Committee. We have a number of excused absences, so when you take roll call, if you hadn't heard already, I will fill in.
Thank you.
So please take the roll.
Okay, Councilmember Atkin.
I am here.
School Board Member Affelt.
Here.
Councilmember Asher is excused.
Yes.
Councilmember Brinkman is excused.
Yes.
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember West.
Here.
School Board Member Simon.
Excused.
Okay. School Board Member Kent.
Here.
School Board Member Dice.
Excused.
Okay. And School Board Member Dwin.
Here.
And we have the city manager here, and the school superintendent is at a conference, so our numbers are down tonight. Is there any public comment? Oh, Jim likes that for the AV. Is there any public comment on items not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none. We do have enough people here to approve the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
And that will be by acclamation unless somebody has a amendment or anything. Okay. Staff comments. Do any staff member have a? Cindy.
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know that we, last night at the City Council meeting, we passed the sliding scale for our after-school program. So if anybody is interested in learning more about that, you can come to the Recreation Center or the Family Resource Center, and we can give you info on that. So,
Can you, for the public, just give a 30-second summary of what the sliding scale is?
sure, because we receive Prop 49 money, we cannot turn anyone away for the inability to pay. So we had to come up with some type of a policy on how we could qualify people that couldn't pay. And so we decided to go, like most after-school programs, with a sliding scale. And the fees for that will range anywhere from $29 per month up to our regular rate of, I believe it's $221. So,
Great.
okay.
Any other staff members?
I have a comment.
Committee members?
Yes. Sorry. Thank you. As you know, the holidays are coming around now. And last year, we had such a successful community service day at ECAP. I wanted to know if the committee would like to do another service day, a couple of service days at ECAP during the holidays. Last year, we did one service day with both the city and school staff, and another day we had for our students to do a service day down in ECAP. So I was thinking, as I said, since last year was such a great success and school district staff and city staff enjoyed it so much that we may want to embark on doing it again. Now, if we would like to do that, we had a board meeting at ECAP this afternoon, and there's two dates, one November the 26th, which is a Tuesday, that ECAT will be feeding for the Thanksgiving holiday, and on Saturday, December 21st, they will be giving away food for the Christmas giveaway. So what I was thinking, and with some feedback from the committee, that maybe on Tuesday the 26th, we could have the city staff and the school boards and the school staff to get together and do a service day on that day. And since the 21st, December 21st is a Saturday, maybe we can have our students do a service day on that day, which would probably be more convenient for the students to convene on a Saturday. So I put that out there for the pleasure of the committee to, kind of think about and see if that's something we would like to do. Like I said, it was a great success last year. And so if that's something we would do or want to do, I would ask the city and school staff to kind of probably put an announcement out next week to see what employees would be willing to volunteer on the 26th. And then I would also ask our school staff to maybe get communicate with our principals to see if we could get students on that Saturday, December the 21st, and that would also fulfill some of their community service hours as well. So if we could look at that. Now, a few more items, real briefly, with ECAP. They are having a few events coming up for the holidays. I know on December. Okay, thank you. Oh, thank you. On December the 23rd, they will be having a Toys for Tot giveaway. And on December 25th, they will be having a Christmas Day dinner. And both of these events will be held, from my understanding, at Annie Yates. So, Ms. Allen, if you could kind of make sure that all the paperwork, documents, and things that need to be done for that is taken care of, it'd be much appreciative. And also, Ms. Allen, there was a request to see after the Toys for Tot event, if maybe we could get some staff to maybe help set up for that Christmas dinner on the 25th. So maybe coming on the 24th, doing some things, and then setting up, preparing for that dinner, and then maybe if we can even get some people to help clean up afterwards, that'd be much appreciative. And the final comment I'd like to make regarding ECAP, ECAP, as you know, is trying to really restructure itself and get more out into the community and give additional services to the community. And with that being done, they have actually created a partnership with Walgreens Drugstore, whereas on October the 17th, Walgreens came out with their flu shot clinic and actually gave 50 flu shots to the clients at ECAP. And they have made a commitment with this partnership with ECAP Walgreens to give additional shots coming up in the 2014 year. So I will keep us abreast of that, and if we have residents, parents who would like to, students who would like to get flu shots, we could also make that announcement then. So that's all the member comments. But I would like to know, I mean, does the committee, district, city would like to do these 2 volunteer days, especially on the 26th? Is that something we can pull off? City?
Yep, being new here, I don't know exactly what it entailed last year, but I think, you know, we're extremely supportive of it.
Okay.
And I'll work with the superintendent about coordinating on that day. I
Okay,
think that
great.
makes the most sense for us on the 26th.
Okay, great. And Cindy knows the routine.
Yeah.
She knows how to get it done.
Great, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other committee members? Yeah.
Well, it's still on the staff comment
Oh,
area?
well, this
Okay, you
I
want
know
to...
we
is
had-
the first committee member, but.
Yeah, I want to go back to a staff comment. 'cause
Okay.
Ms. Allen had a comment. She was going to
Oh.
introduce some student members for us.
So, again, Dr. Linda wasn't here tonight because she's at a leadership conference. And so tonight I wanted to introduce the 2 students who will join your
great.
committee. And if they will come up, Aditi Seth and Jasmine Carr are 2 of our senior students at Emeryville Secondary School. And they have been enrolled in our district since, I believe, 2nd grade, 1st and 2nd grade.
All
And
right,
so,
all right.
so they look forward to joining you all next month. And I think they just had a few words to state to you.
Hi, my name is Aditi Seth, and I'm a senior at Emory High School.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Kaur, and I'm a senior at Emory High School. And we both are really excited, and we are looking forward to bringing more student voices to the table about various issues that face our school and community.
And even though it's our last year in the school, we still want to make sure that the new campus meets the expectations of the future students.
Terrific. Well, we'll do a formal seating of your position next month, but welcome. Thanks for coming tonight, and your year's going to fly by, so
Thank you.
welcome.
And will that installation be on the December agenda?
Yes.
Very good.
Any other staff or committee comments, member comments? All right, this takes us to information items. I've had a request because of the absence of a fair number of committee members tonight for a number of reasons that we continue 5C, the city school policy and procedures discussion, so that we can have a complete body kind of weigh in on that. So I think that's a good idea. And so with that, we'll go to 5A, and I see Phillips here. If you would do the honors of filling us in on the Emory Ed Fund.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. The Emory Ed Fund submitted a $25,000 grant proposal to the Wells Fargo Foundation for General Support. And we should be receiving a response back in a few months regarding that petition. Also, State Farm Insurance is moving to town, and the representative, Stacy Passeri, of 5901 Christie Avenue, number 404, is partnering now with the Emory Ed Fund, and I wanted to announce that they're having their grand opening on Sunday, November the 10th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., and the Emory Ed Fund will be one of the nonprofits featured at this event, and there will be food, a ribbon cutting, live acoustic performance, fancy faces, and so forth and so on. But I also wanted to read a quote from Ms. Passeri, who said, "State Farm and I are committed to supporting, protecting, and growing Emeryville's live, work, and play spirit. Combining my passion for helping people with their financial needs and helping the community with programs such as the Emory Ed Fund is a dream come true." So I appreciate her support, and we look forward to, over the coming months, to announce some exciting programs that will come from this partnership with State Farm locally and nationally. I'd also like to give special thanks to Councilmember West, who published in her e-newsletter the Senior Coach program, and because of her efforts, several of her constituents are interested in volunteering as a mentor in the mentorship program, and we are still recruiting for this mentorship program. It's only an hour a week, or it's a one-time investment that you can give at a Saturday clinic, and that information has been given, and you can go on our website at emeryed.org, or you can call us at 510-601-4997. Lastly, I have an exciting update about one of our students, and I wanted to congratulate her publicly. She's an Emory Secondary School alumna and 2010 school president, Brittany Collins Rogers, for receiving the certificate for high academic excellence from California State Monterey Bay. Brittany is a 4-year recipient of the Emory Ed Fund Scholarship program. She has also been selected to become a member of the National Society of Leadership and Success, Sigma Alpha Pi at Cal State Monterey Bay. Sigma Alpha Pi is a leadership honor society only available to a limited number of students on campus. Her candidacy for the society is based on her leadership potential and is nationally recognized achievement of honorable distinction. So I would like to say congratulations to Brittany and her mother, Brenda Collins, whom we all know, for her great work and for representing Emeryville, Emory Secondary School, and the Emory Ed Fund. Now, if you're watching by television and would like to make a restricted donation for our scholarship program, simply write a check to the Emory Ed Fund and write in the memo line scholarship program. You can mail it to 1275 61st Street here in Emeryville, or you can visit our website and donate online electronically through PayPal securely at emeryed.org. All of our scholarships are funded through the continued generous donations of our partners and community members like yourselves. All donations are tax deductible. That's all.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Did you have a comment? Yeah.
Philip, just a quick minute. How many mentors do the Emory Ed Fund has thus far for students?
It's a rough count, about between 20 and 25 thus far.
Okay. How many are you looking for in total?
60.
Okay, great. Thank you.
But Anna Karita could speak a little bit further about that.
So what I'll state, I know Philip talked about, we have a senior, so we call it a senior coach program. So it's we're asking volunteers to coach a senior, and currently we have a lot of our volunteers will come in and help. Maybe it's a one-time, so they don't feel that they have to meet with a senior once a week, but we have a college committee, and so on our Saturdays, what we have in our clinics is we have a college application clinic. So all of our seniors must apply to 8 to 9 colleges each, and at the end of this month, they must complete their applications for University of California and for California State Universities. Okay. So what we ask our volunteers to do is just to come in. Our students sit in our computer lab, and while they are actually applying for college, we want our volunteers to, sort of give some help one-on-one,
Right.
or to help read personal statements.
So what time on Saturdays do you need these?
9 to
volunteers?
12. So we'll have one this Saturday, and we have another one November 16th, and then we'll announce others as students are applying for their applications. But the first set of applications are the University of California and the California State University, and then we will definitely ask for a volunteer drive when students are applying for their financial aid packages.
Okay, and can you make sure you keep those dates, to the public so we can make those announcements?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there a link on the website somewhere that kind of has that all spelled out that would be easy for people to go to?
I believe it's on the Emory Education Foundation. It's on you all. Is it?
We have information, but not those specific dates, but we can update that information.
That would be
we
great
can.
to have
We can add a link.
one place where people could go, and I'd be
Sure.
happy to, link that. to
Sure,
my
we'll update
community.
the site for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Now we have a presentation from the Children's Aid Society. I'm sorry I don't know your names, but come on up and, okay.
I'll start
Okay,
a little
Roy.
bit, and then they can continue with more detailed introductions. This is Sarah Jonas and Lucas Weinstein. We're really lucky to have them with us this evening. They also had an opportunity to spend some time with Cindy Montero and her staff yesterday, and I hope this generates a really good conversation with you this evening, and I'll let them take it from here.
Well, thank you, Roy. So yes, as Roy said, I'm Lucas Weinstein, Sarah Jonas, and we are from the Children's Aid Society in New York City, more specifically the National Center for Community Schools, which is a part of the Children's Aid Society. At the Children's Aid Society, we've been working on community schools for over 20 years now. In New York City, that's where we started our first schools, and we have 16 community schools right now in New York City. Through our work at the National Center, we work with community school initiatives all around the country. So this is one of the initiatives that we've been working with. So we want to say thank you for having us here today. And what we want to do really is just give you a little bit of insight into what community schools are for us, how they fit into your work here. So as I said, we've been coming out here for a few years. My first time was most recently in August when I came out with Sarah. And during that time, we were able to meet with the superintendent and her cabinet and do some work around community schools, visioning activities, what the Emeryville Center for Community Life can look like within this strategy, and really just a little bit of visioning and starting to think about how the overall community strategy fits into the work that you're doing here in Emeryville. So, this is really why we're here today, to try to help you folks gain a better understanding of our strategy for community schools and have a discussion about how that can apply to the overall Emeryville Center for Community Life, which is really a much broader strategy for reaching out into the community as a whole. So when we talk about community schools, we like to kind of start with this cartoon very often. And for me, what I see here is a child coming to school. And we know that kids who come into our schools carry with them certain issues that are sometimes getting in the way of them being able to be successful academically. So you'll see here sickness, hunger, homelessness. These are some of the issues, and there's plenty of other issues. And so what else we see here is maybe another student looking at this kid saying, I'm going to stay away from him. He's got issues, right? And I have to back off. And what we like to say is maybe that's a principal there just kind of staring, a little bit of a blank stare, like, well, what do I do with this? I'm here to educate kids, not to be a social worker, not to be a doctor, not to work on homelessness issues and things like that. The community school strategy works to try to break down those barriers, to get rid of the barriers so that kids, families, communities can be more successful. This can also apply, I think, in your terms. It doesn't have to be a child. It can be a senior citizen who's there who has a lot of issues that they need assistance with. It could be a child who's in early childhood programs, the same thing, who's coming with baggage that we need to help resolve in order for them to be successful academically. So I think the cartoon can be read in many different ways. The strategy really is, an easy way to explain it is extended hours, extended services, extended relationships. The swinging door, when we talk about that, it means that we bring a lot of programs and services into our school, but we also reach out into the community. And the community school strategy is not just about affecting one child at a time. And you'll see, I'll talk about this a little bit more, but it's really more about, we know that every child has a family, and every family lives in a community. And if we don't do deeper work within the community to affect change, then there's going to be new kids coming in with the same issues or different issues, but issues, right? And the strategy is really about affecting change on an individual level, but also on a broader level, so that we don't have that pipeline continuing to flow, and really to bring communities closer together. So we'd like to talk about our work in terms of our developmental triangle. And in that, the child, and now this is really talking about it from a community schools perspective, because that is mostly the work that we do. I mean, it's bigger than just a school, but the work that you're doing here with the Emeryville Center of Community Life, is even bigger. But we talk about it with the child at the center, because that's our focus, is helping children. Now, like I said, around that child, there's a family, and we try to work with the whole family, because like I said, if we just help that child, then we're not helping the family, improve their situation, and then beyond that, not helping the community as a whole. Come together around education, come together around program services, about quality of life issues, and that's really where we see the Center for Community Life fitting into this. So when we talk about community schools, our main focus is academic outcomes for kids. So the core instructional program is always really important. And that's driven, in our case, say in New York City, we're partners with the Department of Education. We don't run the academic end of things. We run a lot of other things, but everything is in support of helping kids achieve better academic outcomes. On the right side are the expanded learning opportunities. And that could be it can be after-school programs, before-school programs. It can be adult ed. It can be early childhood programs. Anything that can help push the academic performance of kids. And then on the bottom are the support services, so mental health, medical, dental, vision services, things like that. A lot of our schools, we have school-based health centers within the schools. If we don't have school-based health centers within the schools, we ensure that there's providers in the communities that we can access, that we take kids to, we take families to, we connect them. So it's not just about connecting the kids to all of these things. It's really about connecting the whole family, about making these things available to the community. Our community schools are really designed to be a hub in the community. It's really putting a community center into a school. Schools are public buildings. And we want them to be accessed and utilized by the community. And it's about opening the doors. It's about bringing the resources of the community into the school to serve all members of the community, kids, families, adults alike. And it's also about reaching out into the community. People in the community should know what our school is. They should know our kids. Our kids should know the business owners. They should want our kids to be their customers. We should want to bring them in to work with our students, to work with our families. So it's really a broad vision. And you'll see on each of the vertices of the triangle is the circle. So what we like to talk about that's our community school director. In each of our schools, we have what we call a community school director. And what that is, that's a person who ensures that there's communication going on between all three sides of the triangle. And not just communication, but making sure, for example, that expanded learning opportunities. If we have after-school programs, we want to ensure that they're connected to what's going on in the school day, because otherwise we're not really going to be able to affect the academic outcomes of our kids. There has to be not just communication, but real work together to tie these things together. At the same time, comprehensive support services. Say there's mental health services in a school. We want to ensure that there's communication between the providers, the classroom teachers, so that it's not just like you send a kid out to be fixed and then they come back and they're all better. Teachers have to be involved in that and understand what's going on with the children. At the same time, we want to involve the family in that. We want to connect them to resources in the community. It's not about doing everything right there. It's really about bringing the whole family, the whole community together to meet the needs of our kids, of our families, and of the community as a whole. So that's really a look at what our strategy is at the Children's Aid Society. And we're going to continue the conversation to talk about how it fits in with the Emeryville, the work you're doing here in Emeryville.
Great. So we like to talk. So I'm Sarah Jonas. Nice to meet everyone tonight. We talk about community schools, the power of community schools as being able to free teachers to teach and students to learn. And what we mean by that is that when the non-academic needs of students and families are being met, then teachers are free to focus on their core work, which is to teach, to instruct children, to deliver content to children. Likewise, when young people have their needs met, be they mental health needs, other types of challenges they may be facing, they're able to focus on their core work in school, which is to show up each day on time and learn, to become engaged as learners and be able to take advantage of that core instructional program that's being delivered to them. And here in Emeryville, in terms of the Emeryville Center for Community Life, you could even add in here that the ECCL would free teachers to teach, students to learn, and for example, city services, community services folks to focus on their core work of delivering high quality programs and services to seniors, to students, to community members. So that would be, a piece of the work for you here as well. So some of the key program components of a community school strategy, and again, these are things you'll find not only for example, at the Children's Aid Society, in our community schools in New York City, but at community schools all across the country. And as Lucas said, this is an initiative that's taken hold across the country in many school districts and communities all across the United States. So some of the things you're likely to see include expanded learning opportunities. Lucas spoke a little bit about those kinds of after-school programs, Saturday programs, summer programs, those kinds of things. Family engagement, so all kinds of deep engagement opportunities for families to really become connected to their school and community. Adult education and recreation, medical, dental, mental health and social services, early childhood programs, and community and economic development. So a community school, when it's successful, again, it's serving not only the needs of the students and families in that school, but it really helps strengthen a community as a whole. And again, a community school both fills in gaps and needs where there are challenges, but it also draws on the assets and strengths of the community and sort of gives an outlet for the community to become, to bring those strengths and assets to the school, be it students, their families, or other community members. So communities become stronger, healthier, safer, vibrant places for people to live and work and learn. I mentioned community schools as a national movement, so this is just a little bit about that. And as community schools have grown, they started with sort of individual schools in districts across the country. Then communities started saying, this is a good thing. We want more of these. So districts began committing to having multiple community schools in their district. And out of that, what's grown is, as I'm sure people here are aware, initiatives like Promise Neighborhoods and things that are, where whole neighborhoods say, we want to strengthen, we want our neighborhood to be stronger and healthier, and so we're going to put community schools, the schools in our neighborhood are going to be community schools, and the way we work as a whole is going to be in this more integrated, coordinated approach. And that's very similar to what you're doing here. And some results of community schools initiatives. So as Lucas said, this community schools work has been going on in New York City with Children's Aid for 20 years, and around the country, again, there's been a good history of community schools initiatives to this point, where we've been able to see some really good outcomes, and those include not only improved academic performance for students in community schools, but also improved student and teacher attendance. So we found that in community schools, teachers come to school more regularly as well. And when we've looked into that, we found that it's because when teachers feel like students and families' needs are being met, they're able again to focus on their core work of teaching and be able to just really enjoy what they came to do and be able to give that their full focus. Reduced dropout rates, higher graduation rates, improved student behavior, greater parent engagement. Student leadership really soars, and again, neighborhoods become stronger, healthier, more vibrant places for everyone. So, the connection again between the community school strategy and the ECCL is that within the ECCL, community schools here is both your strategy for the K-12 education. So community schools is both the strategy through which educational services will be, designed, delivered, envisioned within the schools themselves, but also community schools is really a strategy for the larger ECCL. And again, because community schools, remember sort of the points, the vertices of that triangle, are all about the connection, the coordination, and alignment of those services and supports. And here in the ECCL, that's very much the vision that we understand that you're working towards, is again, this sort of coordinated, integrated approach to services and supports for families and community members and children. Community schools is not just a feel-good idea, although that's something that we feel like it resonates for a lot of people. It's sort of making sense on an intuitive level, but also community schools is a good investment. And this is something that we recently were part of a study with the Finance Project, a social return on investment study. And the study found that there was a 10-to-1 return for elementary schools that became community schools, and a 14-to-1 return for middle schools. So community schools makes good sense financially as well for schools and for communities. And we brought a few copies of that report, and we're happy to make those available to anyone here who's interested. And lastly, we like to say these are sort of the mantras that we live and work by, and that our colleagues across the country who are engaged in this work have found inspirational and motivating for them in terms of the approach to the work. We say community schools is all about relationships, so none of this work happens without relationships of trust, collaboration, communication. Everything has to be negotiated all the time. So I'm sure this is true for almost any work anyone does, including the work here of this group. But that's a really important piece. And most importantly, for community schools to work, the partners have to have the word yes written in their hearts. And that's because this work is hard work. I mean, this is not. It sounds great, it looks great, and when it works well, which it often does, it's an amazing thing to see, and you get the great results that we shared. But it is hard work, and so it requires people coming back to the core mission. Why are we doing this? What do we hope to achieve? And we're going to do whatever it takes to get there. So that's sort of the end of our formal presentation. We would love to just be able to engage you in any questions you have, comments, just a broader conversation with you.
Committee members, any comments or questions? Jennifer?
Thanks for your presentation. I feel like we've heard a lot of this in different ways before, but it's helpful to kind of have it packaged. And I have a question about the finance report that you mentioned. And when you talk about the 10-to-1 or 14-to-1 dollar return, can you elaborate a little bit more on what those costs or savings actually might be in terms of what services are saving money?
Sure. I mean, I think the overall, so the study looked at several of our community schools in New York City, the Children's Aid Society community schools, and really it was looking at sort of over the long term, the investment that you make up front in young people as being a wise investment in terms of if you didn't support those kinds of services and supports when children are young, the kinds of needs that they would have and the financial result of those needs going forward. And so again, we are happy to make available that report to you so you can kind of look into the details. But the kinds of supports that we provide in our schools are the kinds of things that you saw in here. Health, mental health supports, academic supports for students who might need extra tutoring, for example, so that they don't fall behind academically and so that they're able to graduate on time in 4 years in high school, those kinds of things. And so those are the kinds of supports that are provided up front in community schools, beginning even in some of our schools, we start working with moms when they're pregnant and start working even on support services for children before they're born in their early years and so forth, right on through. So that kind of pipeline that Lucas described.
And secondly, then, I guess, can you elaborate a little bit more on your role in this project? I mean, I understand kind of the philosophical
yes,
support,
absolutely.
but what concrete? I've heard that you've worked with staff,
Sure.
but I'm curious what other deliverables, I guess.
Sure. So again, we do this. So we're working here in Emeryville. We also do similar work with initiatives across the country. And really, when we're brought in to work with folks, we're there to work sort of from soup to nuts on developing community schools. So we've been, members of our team have been coming out and working here in Emeryville for, I think about 10 years, sort of on and off at different points in the project. So when we come out, initially it's really to help folks understand what the strategy is, sort of, what based on other work that's been done around the country, what, the best lessons learned from other initiatives. But then beyond that, we're actually able to help work on the ground with folks on the ground in that particular place, how this strategy is going to translate for you. So we like to say that community schools as a strategy, it isn't a program. That's what, why we type. So it's not a program where we're going to come in and say, here's exactly what you do, step 1, step 2, step 3, this is how we did it in New York, here's how it's going to, no. It's really about, here's what we know from other places that have done this work in terms of, what works well, what are some of the core components you want to include, the governance. There's a lot that we've learned around how to sort of govern and direct these kinds of initiatives that helps make them more successful or less successful, and we can help share those strategies here with you and help you translate how those might look for your own community here. Another piece of that, which I think I mentioned in the earlier slide, is that we do a lot of work around needs and asset assessments. So we can help folks in different communities look at what existing data they have, help them sort of find what other kinds of data points they might want to look at to help them understand what a community school strategy, what kinds of needs you would want that strategy to address, and how that strategy can build on the particular assets of your community so that it can be successful for you here.
Is all this work funded by the Children's Aid Society?
So in New York, in our work in New York City, are you asking?
Yeah.
Right. So in New York City, when we started this work about 20 years ago, we were largely supporting it through initially through private money that we raised. But over the years, that changed so that we were much more working with public monies. So as this kind of there's been more support at both the city, the state, and the federal level for this kind of work. And so, for example, the 21st Century federal funds for out-of-school time programs are often drawn on by communities to help fund the after-school portion of this kind of work. Early childhood, we're able, again, because it's an integrated strategy, you're able to draw on funds for Head Start, early Head Start and Head Start, for example. So those kinds of things. So in New York City, it's shifted much more to public dollars, although we still raise private money as well. Do you want anything else?
So I'm a little unclear here. So are you going to be continuing to work with Emeryville on the ECCL?
We certainly hope so. Again, that will be,
And who would fund that?
Right.
The work that we've been doing, you recall, I'm
I
not
don't know if your mic's on.
The green light's on. Dead battery.
There you
The, I'm trying to recall the exact time frame, but it was probably a year and a half ago or so, maybe even 2 years ago. The City Schools Committee authorized some program development work. Children's Aid was one of the consulting groups that was part of that program development work, and they're still continuing under that arrangement that we made with them whenever it was, a year and a half or so ago. So that's how they're with us now. They're here as consultants to our process. And Sarah, I think, did a good job of outlining how it is that we can continue to use them. They can help us think about ways to structure the work, to develop the cooperative and collaborative relationships between the city programs and the school programs in a kind of a deeper and more detailed way. So that's what we've been using them to do.
And where specifically are the present funds coming from? What pocket?
I believe that, I'd have to verify this, but my memory says that the program development funds came from MOU 2.
Could we put this for discussion on the December, to bring back, to refresh all our minds what it is we're doing here and how we are paying for it and
Sure.
with what funds. And then following on that, would we be able to get a copy of your economic analysis book that you showed? If you could give one to Sabrina for the city council, and then who would take it for the school district? But that's something we want to take a look at too. Those are very useful figures.
Great.
If we can tie them somehow to what we're doing here in this city.
Terrific. And Lucas reminded me, I should also mention that another piece of work that we've done with Community Schools Initiatives nationally is around sustainability. So we do a lot of, we can do a lot of work with you all around, initially how you're funding this project, but really looking long term in terms of the ECCL, how that would look going forward. So that would, of course, draw on the social return on investment study, but also on work we've done with many other initiatives around long-term sustainability of this work. And there are some really innovative ways that folks have done that.
I'd just like to make a comment. I'm a real fan of the Children's Aid Society. I've been for longer than you two have been alive.
So I gave Sabrina 2 copies of the social return on investment study there, as well as 2 books that explain our work at the Children's Aid Society around community schools. They're also both available on our website, so you don't, and we can also send you as many copies as you'd like. So, okay.
Miguel?
Yes. I actually have 2 questions. The first question is, since you've been involved with the district for a certain amount of time, do you personally at this time have any recommendations that you could give to us based on your observations over the years of what we may need to continue to work?
Sure. I mean, I think a couple of things come to mind. First, I just want to say that, we've been really excited about the work you're doing here because, again, we think it's really sort of cutting edge work and that you're taking this strategy not just to a school or looking just in terms of a group of schools in a district, but really as a full community strategy. And so we think that's very exciting, and we actually think that, not to put any pressure on you, but we think that the work you do here will be instructive to other folks around the country, who might be looking to do something similar. I think a couple of things. One, Lucas mentioned the community school coordinator, how key that person is. So I think as you continue to develop this initiative, it'll be really important to think about that role for the ECCL. So, we're talking about a community school coordinator, but for you all, it would really be an ECCL coordinator. Someone, again, who would have a broad sense of the programs, services, and supports and partners for the community and can really help look not only at individual children, but at families, at community members, and be able to have that sort of big picture and have those relationships with the different parts of your community and the different service providers to be able to do that coordination and alignment, which is really what makes or breaks a strategy like this. I think the other piece is around governance I mentioned earlier. I know that you're working through on the joint occupancy agreement, sort of what that governance will look like, and I think that that's really important work and key that you're doing that up front because, again, it's complex work and you need to be sure you have the right partners at the table and spaces for going down the line. You probably will identify other partners that you want to be at the table that might not be yet. So I think that that's going to be a key piece, and that's certainly something that we can share more ideas with you on. But that's key. And I mentioned sustainability also critical to the work. You're in that early. You're getting something off the ground. You're going to there's quite a bit that's going to happen in the next few years, and I think it'll be critical to look not only at sort of a 5-year type of time frame for sustainability, but beyond that, how this is going to stay healthy and alive for years to come.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
I got one more. And can you give some examples of how you involve your parent engagement, some of those components, and how you get those parents engaged, families engaged in their
I don't know
real
how the mic.
outcomes?
You want to say something? Okay. So a couple of things. One, I mentioned sort of the needs and assets assessment work. So I think that from the beginning, and I know you've been doing this here already, really engaging families and community members from the beginning in terms of the vision. What kind, what would they want out of, say, a community school, or in this case, an ECCL? And I know you've done quite a bit of that here. I think that's critical because we've seen initiatives backfire when they sort of think, someone else who's not a parent or family thinks, oh, well, we know what parents and families want and need, so we're going to do this and have this and have this. And quite often those backfire utterly. So I think involving parents as stakeholders from the beginning is really important. And I think, as Lucas mentioned, sort of making making the community school or the ECCL really responsive ongoing to parents' changing needs and families' needs, because what families might need today in Emeryville might look different in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So there needs to be that sort of ongoing dialogue and sort of structures in place to keep families very much engaged in this process. And then within our community schools, family engagement ranges from education, sort of, in our schools, for example, computer classes, ESL classes, recreational programs, physical education, as well as leadership programs, because quite often we start with those kinds of services as a way to make the school a welcoming place for families where they want to come and feel comfortable. But then it's really about engaging families as leaders in their own schools, and so creating those kinds of opportunities for parent leadership and parent advocacy.
So it seems that it's a little bit of programming, school programs and curriculum, but I kind of hear also, this community school coordinator would be a person who could also kind of infiltrate those families, get them involved, hear their comments, concerns,
Absolutely.
issues.
100%. So that person definitely needs to be someone who knows the community well, the families, and has those relationships with them.
Right.
Lucas,
I mean,
do you wanna-
Well, just on that, and also so knows them, but certainly works as a bridge to the school. So to the principal, communicates what the community school coordinator is finding out about what the needs are, to city services, to everyone who's at the table. So that it's really key also for the community school coordinator, director, whatever it might be called, to be at the table in all those different areas. So it's not just a one-way flow of information, so that it's shared, and also so that the perspectives of every other person are brought to the table.
So just to give you one little example on that, in community schools, where in New York, for example, and other places, it's critical that the community school director sits at in governance structures within the school. Like in New York City, we have a school leadership team. I'm sure there's a similar structure here. That they're at that table, because again, if they're not at the table with the school and other partners, they don't know what the needs are of the different constituents, nor are they abreast of the various programs and services which they need to be to do that coordination work effectively.
Yeah, it's funny because listening to you, I mean, being a small district, staff have to wear a lot of hats, and you can't really sometimes, carve out, positions and hire people in because of financial reasons. Because I'm hearing you, and I'm thinking, Mr. Miller, Roy, has done a little bit of all of this, as well as, worked on the facilities, the architect, facilities managers. So, I can really see where a coordinator can be of value when you really talk about and have a dedicated person for that position that can really bring value to link all these pieces together.
Yeah, I can't underscore that piece again, just for lessons learned. When we've seen places where they have sort of a part-time coordinator, it's really hard to do that level of coordination and integration unless it's your full-time focus. It really, and so that's just from our work with many other places. I would make that point.
So I have a comment. Well, first of all, thanks for coming cross-country to work with us.
Enjoy it.
Those cross-country flights can be kind of hard. So I appreciate your work and for recognizing that what we're about is a little different than full-service community schools. It's actually full-service community. And so with that, and given that you, it just so happens this way, we're a little more integrated and coordinated than we happen to be. But tonight we have 3 city council members sitting side by side. We try to intersperse. But that being said, there's a demographic statistic that is true at the last census. I don't know what the next census will look like. Hopefully it'll change. But 51% of our households are households of one person. So, what?
That was 65.
No, 51.
51?
51%. So an absolute majority of the number of households here are one person living alone. And certainly my leitmotif in my public service has been about building community. And the more we talk about community and not necessarily family units here, then I think when CCL opens, that it is my hope that there'll be something that will appeal to everybody living in town across the lifespan.
I'm sure that we all agree on that. Also, I think that we like to think that by doing this, maybe people will stay beyond the point that they're just single people living in the community and want to raise their families here, and I don't know.
Well, we're doing our best to try
Yeah.
to get family-friendly housing in, but that's a slow process. And,
Absolutely.
And we haven't been very successful because we're in the urban core, and there have been some challenges around that kind of development. But that being said, I know your organizing principle is around education, and I think my organizing principle is one of the people here is around building community. So
Yeah. And on that, we historically the Children's Aid Society is a social service agency. I'm a social worker, and the work that we do is always been about building communities. We entered this about 20 years ago. The Children's Aid Society is 163 years old. So not to say that we weren't doing work in education prior to that, but the main gist of our work has always been around community building, whatever the needs of that community might be. Yes, we're the Children's Aid Society, so certainly a subcontext of our focus is always on children and families, but I certainly understand and agree.
Okay, so now we can talk the same language because I'm a social worker too.
I'm a teacher, so.
Okay, but your coordinator role sounds awfully similar to that of a case manager.
Yeah.
It's a case manager on a broader level. So that the community school director or whatever it may be is not necessarily the person who's doing the specific individual work with those kids, but it is the person who's knows gathering all of the resources in the community, knows where everything is, knows what the different needs are of all those kids, but it's not the person doing direct counseling, for instance, with a child or something like that. There's other ways to bring that in.
It seems like they're doing
Or
more
service
referrals.
arranging.
It sounds like an executive director meets social worker.
Yes, and which is why actually in our schools, our community school coordinators are a range of social workers, educators, MBAs. I mean, we have sort of a different, because it is sort of this complex role. And again, I think since we're talking about your context of the ECCL, I think it's important to say again that this individual will not only be someone who knows individual kids, but again has to have that broader perspective to be able to know different constituents in your community, not just children, but families and community members that don't have children or have grown children, or they're going to need a broader sense of your community.
And what I'm hearing is that there will be more of a referral type of individual who would refer the services that are needed to families in the community and kind of giving them that pathway to what they need, the services that they need.
Yeah, I think that's a good, and again, it's sometimes it may be a referral, it may be even in time sort of thinking about creating new types of services and programs that don't currently exist or could exist but are sort of, broken a little bit here, a little bit there. How can we bring those together to do something in a smarter way, not only in terms of resources, but in terms of quality of service as well?
I think John has some things. I have a couple.
Okay.
Do you have any research that you've done on the schools? How many did you say you've now gotten your...
Well, in New York City we have 16, but there are thousands across the country.
Yeah. At least the ones in New York City and elsewhere if you have it, but sort of pre-post community school analysis in terms of student outcomes, health outcomes, graduation outcomes, where you can tell whether or not the community school intervention, as it were, actually made a difference in improving.
Yeah, so I mean, again, it's sort of a growing body of research, but I would say the most recent, and folks are very excited about sort of the research coming out of Cincinnati public schools. So Cincinnati, every school in Cincinnati public schools is a community school, every one of their schools. So they took this on, and actually they're also a very good sort of case study to look at in terms of they started their initiative through community engagement. It was a sort of a deep level of community engagement, similar to what you've done here, I think, actually. But they have, if you go to actually to their district website, they've had some tremendous outcomes that folks around the country are very excited about, because when you do something on that scale, to that level, you really can take a look at some outcomes. So they've had some terrific outcomes, certainly academic outcomes, but others as well. And we can share more, some of the research that we showed you quickly about our own schools found, again, not only sort of the academic outcomes, but youth development factors, indicators, real increase in those, health, and some of the other things that you spoke about.
They fund public education a lot better than California does, too, on a per pupil basis.
Yeah, almost anyway.
You mean Cincinnati? Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Also, right. Oh, right. So, and as well, so if, you can look at the Cincinnati research and the Children's Aid and other research on community schools at the Coalition for Community Schools website. The Coalition for Community Schools is a national policy and advocacy organization around community schools, which I know some of you have been to their conferences and so forth. And so they have a whole section on their website that has the research I've shared with you and other initiatives research as well.
Great. So the other question I had is how, in your experience, typically how many of these community schools, or what proportion of them, are K-12 community schools, like we're envisioning here, versus some subset of grades?
I mean, I would have to say it's all across every one. Yes, and all of them. So we work with community schools that are strictly K-5, that are middle schools, that are high schools, K-8, across the spectrum. So I think folks have done this work in all of those types of configurations.
And go ahead, Lucas.
I just wanted to expand on that a little bit. Certainly, when we started in New York City, we started with we started with an elementary school in Washington Heights and a middle school in Washington Heights, and they were feeder schools because the idea was to have the kids go from this community school to this community school and then to the high school. In New York City, there's very few K-12 schools, so in New York City, our work has been more focused on elementary, middle, or high school. But around the country, initiatives have been very different, so there's been all across the board.
Well, from some sectors that in our community, there's a tension about co-locating the high school with the K-8 school, and so I guess I'm curious to know if you've seen any basis to have concern about a K-12 community school, and conversely,
So,
have you seen benefits
yes.
of a K-12 arrangement
Right,
that you don't necessarily get?
I think both of us would agree, and in New York City,
Agree with what?
we have a campus that's fully sort of a full spectrum of kids on one campus. I think we see that as a benefit in our experience with community schools. There, it opens up so many opportunities for cross-peer tutoring, cross-peer programming, mentoring, of older kids with younger kids. More recently, we've been involved in New York City with work around older kids being attendance buddies for slightly younger peers that are having trouble getting to school on time each day, and sort of there's some real benefits to that. So I think we see it as fully a benefit in terms of many more opportunities than maybe. Certainly there are challenges, but we think the opportunities outweigh those. And in a community school strategy is a terrific way to maximize those benefits because of the way that it's set up to be integrated. And I just want to say, we often talk about the importance of not just looking at these programs and services sort of as being co-located. So in a community school, it's certainly a benefit that you'd have some programs and services in your ECCL, that they'd be in one location. But for us, the magic is really about that integration of those services. So it isn't just now we have everything here on one block or whatever. It's that those folks are talking to each other and working together and coordinating together, and that would lend itself to your example about the older kids and younger kids really working together in some deeper ways.
Any research on that, the K-12 community school model, or the benefits of?
I don't know. I mean, we can certainly look into it for you. I don't know that there's specifically research on that and sort of that aspect of it, but there's certainly tons of research that community schools draw on in terms of the benefits of peer-to-peer, kind of older and younger students working together, and yeah.
And when Hay and Kim was here, she did a whole presentation to the school board that cited all sorts of studies from literature. I can dig those up and get those to you again.
That'd be great. And lastly, as you noted, our model here is one that's actually both trying to bring wraparound services and a full service support to a K-12 school, and also at the same time, buttress and build the bonds of the community and provide wellness and potentially job training and other things that will satisfy the whole community. A library, a cafe. Have you seen that kind of full service community model that Member Atkin was talking about, and
Sure.
What successes or failures, or should we?
Again, I think that, I mean, we showed that slide sort of quickly, but I think this idea of place-based strategies, is really taking hold. So, we're certainly in New York City, an example of, a sort of famous example of a place-based strategy is the Harlem Children's Zone, Jeffrey Canada's work, and more around the country, folks are engaging in sort of this, taking these ideas to a community as opposed to just a school. And even in New York City, this past year, Children's Aid, we're actually embarking on a community, place-based strategy at a particular neighborhood in the Bronx, where again, the schools in that community will be community schools, but the community itself will operate, in this strategy. So I think that's really the future of this work. Again, I don't think anyone's doing it exactly the way you're doing it, where it really is your entire community. Like again, in New York, it's a neighborhood in New York City that's going to be that's why we say what you're doing here is exciting for us, because it really is, it's really going to, kind of be an example. It's going to lead the way on a particular way to address this work. But certainly there's the promised neighborhoods and place-based strategies. Collective impact is another, kind of way people are talking about this work now. There's really good research about the benefits of working in that way, not only fiscally, but also in terms of community health and community strength. Please.
So I will state that as I went to a Gear Up conference, I think a couple years ago in New York, and I happened to visit one of the schools in Washington Heights, and the group that I actually spoke to were the adults who benefited from the community school. So I would say, because Emeryville is so small, we should actually look at it as a neighborhood. So some of our city is smaller than some of the neighborhoods in New York, as I'm sure a lot of you know that. So when we think about the neighborhood schools, I think that's what we should compare ourselves to. So in the Family Resource Center, they addressed adults, like job training. So while many of them were parents, a lot of them had adult children who were young adults. So they had the job training. Their parents, who were seniors, also came. So they talked about the field trips that those parents take to Washington, the seniors take to Washington, D.C., or some of them who have never been out of their borough, that they will take field trips. So I think there are plenty of opportunities where, if we look at the schools in New York, the neighborhood schools as our city schools, then we can actually have plenty of opportunities to look at those as studies.
That's a great point. And in that same school, we had like an abuelas, a grandmother's group, and because we had a group of grandmothers that had, at that point they wanted support around how do I work with my grandchild. So there was, so again, from a doula program was something else that we started. So thank you. I think that's a great way to look at it.
Great, thank you very much.
I think,
Oh, you.
no, I think.
Oh,
I just had a couple more.
Yeah,
comments.
go ahead.
Okay. I love all of these ideas, and I'm a little concerned because I see it as additional expenses that we're building a community center to try and consolidate expenses on the school side, certainly with the K-12 and I'm not sure how much of this is built into the operations plan that we are currently working on. And so that's kind of a financial question, and we can always say, oh, we can apply for grants, et cetera, but I'm thinking of more sustainable, I think is the word you used. And I'm wondering about capacity. I'm wondering about layers in terms of, is that person who could be a coordinator, director currently in our midst, or is this on top? Because everyone here has full-time jobs already, right? And so it's hard to imagine really how that works. It sounds fabulous, but then, we're here to really figure out the nuts and bolts and really the dollars and cents, and what that would be translated into. So I'm thinking of very practical,
Based on that, so are you thinking that the city would have to somehow pay for this individual? Is that the concern from a financial standpoint?
The city or the schools. I feel like
Okay.
both the city and schools don't have extra money sitting around in terms of operations. So yeah, somehow.
All right.
Do you have extra money sitting around in the school district? No.
Well, based on what you're saying, I guess we don't.
But I don't know. I'm just thinking that it's. What I'm trying to say is, I don't think I need to be sold on any of the philosophical benefits. I feel very strongly after teaching in the public schools for 13 years, but I want to know how to make this happen, and I want to know how much you as consultants can do that and help us figure it out, because we can't pay consultants on and on and on either.
Of course, and we want to put ourselves out of business. That's sort of what we like to do. So that's how we achieve our goals.
So I guess I'm thinking that really hardcore and practical information that we can get from you, and when I say we, I guess I mean the staff really, and to bring it back to us. So that's one of my thoughts, and then specifically about governance, which has been raised. You know, we're not just a school district, and that's unique, and it's tricky, and it's hard to negotiate, as you said, and negotiations are important. So I'm curious if you have worked directly with city staff and city councils as well to incorporate and fold everyone's perspectives into real workable programs as well as strategies, I guess.
Yes, so just to say a little bit, again, on the sustainability piece that you brought up earlier, I will say, it'll sound like a broken record, but, that coordinator position obviously is essential. It's in our opinion, it's a make or break as far as the success of this. And we do feel, from our experience, it needs to be a dedicated person. We have seen initiatives kind of repurpose, like look at people maybe that they have, and, sometimes it's like it can be something that, that they're already doing, that they expand, but it really needs to be a full-time focus for that person. And by the way, we've seen lots of different innovative ways of financing that position. So we can definitely help with that. And as far as the governance piece, the short answer is yes. When we work with initiatives, we've seen initiatives where the community school is a strategy that really starts with and is driven by the district. We've seen communities where it's a city initiative, city government initiative, and we've seen combinations of the two. So we can definitely bring experiences to bear from those other models to be able to share with you in terms of looking at what you're doing.
And I just want to reiterate, I think, what Member Atkins said, which is that we have clear needs of our current school community, and I think I would say that we have done a good job engaging the school community.
Absolutely.
But we have a huge portion of our community that is not at all engaged in our school district because of the demographics we have, the number of students who are not living in Emeryville who attend our schools, the number of us in Emeryville with children who unfortunately don't have our kids in the school in town. And so I think it's really critical, and I can't remember where we heard it exactly, but the percentage of people who'd never heard of ECCL in Emeryville was like 97%, or there was, I can't remember what that number was.
Right. It's about 95%.
95%, very high. So how do you engage the non-school community when you're talking about a community school or a full-service school? People might say, oh, well, that's not about me. And I think maybe it's not unique, but it's a special circumstance that we have that's really important for Emeryville.
Right, and again, I think it's about here in particular, but really, it's really about thinking about for those various constituents, what are the things that they would like to see that aren't in their community currently that would make them feel better and more engaged and connected to their community, and then looking at how the ECCL can answer that. You really do have to look at your different stakeholders and constituents, and where do they see? They have to be able to see themselves in the ECCL, a place for themselves. Some people will be more deeply engaged. You might have a family that is taking advantage of lots of programs and services. You might have somebody who really enjoys this particular aspect activity that's offered or experience that's offered, but it's like more of an occasional thing. But I think it's going to be critical for you that every stakeholder sees something for themselves in it. And it's not that different from our schools. We often say, like, when we start community schools in districts, we've gone to places where we've had families say, well, for example, I don't want to use the clinic. Like, I have a doctor that I like I'm not interested. And we say, no, it's not. You don't have to use the clinic. Right. It's not about that. If that's something that's useful to you, if a school-based health clinic is something that meets your needs, great. But no, you don't have to. You can. You're going to find the entry point that meets your particular interest and need.
I think it's something that the school board's been talking about for some time, and it boils down to communication. Mm-hmm. Communicating to the community what the school district has, what the city has, what services they offer. And I think that's one of the major reasons why 95% of the residents in Emeryville may not know about our schools. So, with you giving the recommendation of a point person who can connect all those dots together, I think that's why, for me, hearing it is so important. Because if we want to be a full-service community school, we have to get out and let the community know what we're doing. A lot of times, government agencies, they expect people to come to them. And I think, in this conversation, what I'm hearing is that to really make this work, we have to get out to our community. Yeah. And, we have to promote ourselves. And that's something right now, to be honest, we're not doing well. So I think to have a point person of some magnitude that can, bring those nexus together, it can really help not only the district, but it can also help the community know exactly what we're doing and make them a part, of this full-service community school.
And by the way, that's also a key piece of sustainability. So when we do sustainability work, we talk not only about sort of the financial and fiscal aspects of that, strategic planning and so forth. We also talk about key champions that, you need to have from the beginning key champions in different, parts of your community that will take this idea and really, not only speak to it, but fundraise for it, bring other resources to it, engage others in it. That's a key piece of sustainability. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, and just on that, I mean, you're really in a great position because, it's still going to be, I guess it's 2015 at least scheduled. So right now, say if there is an opportunity to bring in this coordinator person or something now to do this work, you have some time and the benefits of really, really, really pushing that work forward for the next 2 years. And not just saying nothing's going to happen in that time, because there's things going on right now, and all of these things are going on right now, just not in one location. So the work is happening. That's really important, but there's a really good opportunity to also use this time to really continue that deep reach into the community.
And let me make this clear to the committee. From my perspective, any dollars we have should be spent in the classroom. I mean, that's my top priority. But with that being said, if we're going to really make this vision come to fruition, we have to do certain things to make it happen. And if this is a position that is key in making, this community of full-service community schools, then we have to invest in it.
Nora?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment on the fact that over 95% of the people don't know about ECCL. We have to understand what this community is built. There's a lot of diverse little communities within this community. And but there's a very high support for education.
Oh, yes, for sure.
When school funds come
That's
up,
right.
and that people put their
That's
money
right.
where their mouth is.
That's right.
And so we have this underlying understanding in this city. Almost 70% of the people have a BA degree or greater.
Right.
So we're talking about an educated community
Exactly.
that understands the value of education.
That's right.
We have that base support. And I agree with you, Miguel. I think we should focus. First, you don't want to open like a big extravaganza like you're opening a casino up in Napa or someplace like that. But you start with improving the educational opportunities of the children. It will naturally grow and flower. And I'd like to make one other comment in terms of we beat ourselves up because we say we don't communicate enough with the community. I want to say something about recreational opportunities and educational opportunities. I happen to live in a multifamily place that has a beautiful, beautiful recreation center with a pool, ping pong tables, all that kind of stuff. And yet there's probably about 2,500 to 3,000 people in this complex. Less than 5% of the people in that complex use a facility that is gorgeous that you can walk to in 5 minutes. And from my perspective, it's because we have a community of people, for the most part, who are working hard. They're very involved in whatever they're doing. So let's focus on the kids.
Right.
Get ECCL off and running.
Right.
You have an outstanding school district. You're going to build that.
Exactly.
So that's just my comments. I feel very strongly about that.
Thanks for coming. I'm aware of the time. Councilmember West needs to leave at 7. So thank you.
Thank you
And
very much.
I hope this committee can see some, like a closing report or things that have been institutionalized through your work here, or whatever, something like that.
Thank
Okay.
you. Can I ask Roy Miller one quick question about next time? Nora asked for some numbers in terms of contracts and consultants, and I seem to recall that we had other consultants that were similarly working on the program development piece. And so, if you could clarify all of that as well at the next meeting with, or whenever it comes, but just to understand the different contracts, how they overlay, how they intersect, how they don't, which portions or who, because that would just really help me to clarify the different roles.
As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, we'll be continuing the policy and procedures discussion for December when more of us are here. What?
Is there any public comment?
Oh, thank you. Anybody here want to speak on this last agenda item? Thank you. Roy, it's your turn to talk about the demolition schedule.
I think I can help us stay on our 7 o'clock adjournment schedule here. So this is brief but important. The school board did approve the abatement and demolition contract with Turner Construction. For the first couple of weeks of that work, they needed to, it's basically called mobilization. There are a whole lot of things that they have to have lined up before they can actually set foot on the site. They have to have all their bonds and insurance in place. They have to have all their subcontractors' bonds and insurance in place. Their subcontractors have to get all their forces ready to go. That has all occurred now. I have all of those documents in files in my office. And so Turner Construction now has control of the former Emory Secondary School site. And they've been working this past week or so with city staff on obtaining the appropriate encroachment permits, all of the details for where fences are going to go that surround the site, how those fences may or may not block sidewalks from at different times during this process. There is a fence now that's up along the 47th Street edge of the site. Fences will very soon be going up on the San Pablo edge of the site. We've also had some signs made that have great big "Thank you Emeryville" on them and talk about the project that's coming. Those signs will go up very shortly. I think there will be signs at the corner of 47th and San Pablo. Those should be up any moment now, within the next few days. The signs on 53rd, at 53rd and San Pablo, there's actually a little bit of a temporary structure that needs to be erected there in order for the signs to have something to be mounted to. And so that'll take a little bit longer, but those should be up as well next week. The activities that are going on site, the first set of activities that will occur is the abatement work. That's largely interior to the buildings, so you won't see very much for a little while longer here, except for the site fences that are going up and the signs that are going up. Those abatement activities will take approximately, well, it's been about a week now that they've been at it, so about 3 more weeks. And then once the abatement activities are done, actual demolition of buildings will begin. So the community can expect to see buildings begin to come down mid-December, about 3 weeks to 4 weeks from now. The plan right now is to start with the old district office structures. So the smaller, older buildings along San Pablo Avenue are likely to be the first ones that come down. And then it's probably going to proceed to the south to the 47th Street corner and then down 47th Street from there. So that's what we're up to, and it's full bore heading forward at this point.
How long is that going to take, Roy, the demolition?
It's a 4-month contract.
4 months. And then at the conclusion of the 4 months, are we going to go right into beginning the construction of the new building?
Yes, at least with the existing gym. That will be available for starting the renovation and additions to the gym.
Actually, I'm more interested in the ECCL itself. When are we going to start construction on the school part of it?
The plan is to start that in April.
Well, we're all looking forward to that.
Yeah,
Sooner
I mean,
the better.
everything. The architects, we are still in the process of architectural plan approvals through DSA. Those approvals will be done probably early March. We'll have to wrap up contracts with Turner, so that's why I say April.
Well, let me ask you something else. One would hope that good old Turner would have all his insurance and all his papers prior to the time when you expect to start construction in April?
Well, they can't do phases that haven't been completed in terms of plans and specs yet. In other words, we have to be able to identify final dollar numbers in order to write contracts with them. At that point, they'll know what amounts they need to bond and insure.
Thank you for the update.
You're welcome.
I have noticed some activity there, so it's nice to see the very beginnings. Often we do groundbreakings, and then we do ribbon cuttings when a new business kind of opens up. So maybe before the first sledgehammer or something like that, we could do some sort of a ceremony to mark.
Yeah, let me let Ms. Allen talk about what she's been working on as well.
So as a cabinet, we have spoken or talked about a ceremony, and what we'll do, we actually have, we're working with our leadership is, students and ASB students, our governance students, are working with the organization called Youth Together. And so our goal is to actually have this led by students, particularly students who have been at the school since 7th grade. And so having them actually have investment in the school and how it's transitioning, I think will be something that we can celebrate, but they'll actually lead the ceremony and plan the ceremony for us.
That's great. Good idea.
Before we adjourn, I just have, in recognition of our new student reps who are going to be joining us formally, I would like to suggest that we have a standing agenda item like we have for Emory Ed Fund on every future agenda that would come before the Emory Ed Fund, which could be named Campus Report or something like that, where both of you could talk to us and let us know about things that are kind of a buzz from your perspectives.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So I don't know if we need to vote on that, or we could just incorporate that as we build the agenda, but I just like to have that as a standing item early in each agenda. All right, well,
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Move to
so, okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, meeting's adjourned.
That's a great idea.